about to go dumb, yeah, bitch, we whole guard. You ain't know they call me Obi-Wan, I come with the fart. You gon' ride, yeah, of course, get it lit up like a torch. You either low or this low, told that bitches either or. Yeah, I know them niggas ain't cut like that, I swear I'm too hardcore. Yeah, I just got off the call, I'ma start another war. Split a plate up with my niggas, get your knife and your fork. They ain't locked in with the count, and what you speaking to me for? Yeah, I just took the floor, ain't no cowards in my campaign. They can't stop the campaign, tell them bring the champagne. They know I'm a champion, they can see the outcome. Get them niggas bad, got them tied down and out there. Came through with them steppers, niggas been down since day one. We run up the bands, bitch, like Dylan. They say you get on, you gon' represent, I said of course. Soon as they crank that beat, I read that bitch just like a horse. Yeah, about to go dumb, yeah, bitch, we whole guard. You ain't know they call me Obi-Wan, I come with the force. You gon' ride, yeah, of course, get it lit up like a torch. You either low or this low, told that bitches either or. I told you niggas, you ain't cut like that, I swear I'm too hardcore. And I just made the call, we gon' start another war. Yeah.
Backstage.
Yeah, nigga. Fake ass nigga.
You ain't no Israelite, bitch, you a gospelite, bitch.
Fuck you talking about? Hey,
If that nigga won't walk, bitch, we ready. It ain't hard to find us. Hawk, I keep that stick locked, loaded, boy, he'll fade you line up. Young nigga name is Slayer. What you think, boy? You be done to try. Soft coast shit, we bout it. UPK, shoot solid. Little bitch think I'm crazy, think I'm playing like bitch, I ain't the one. Warfare every day, so who is you, bitch? I don't need your love. Killers right round the way. What you think? I love this brotherhood. Hood. More than you, bitch. Sharp on shit, I'm bout it. UPK, shoot solid. Fuck nigga don't want war. It ain't enough clips in your army. All the bitches wanna take my piece. All they hoes wanna take my piece. All the niggas wanna take my piece. No, I can't let a dog take it from me. I can't let a dog take it from me. You a hoe study and you dummy. And these bitches really out this bitch walking around like they don't know nothing. And a lame nigga fall for them and get set up for the coins and get gunned down, man down. Shoulda took the time, get a damn no. But I see the shorter and I show her. She could never get a priest hoeing. You a dirt ass, rust ass neck bitch with a fake ass jewelry. In Tennessee while I'm touring. It's a Tennessee, but she luring. Yeah, that sucker duck bitch ass boy, fuck nigga over that bit muggin'. I say, if that nigga won't walk, bitch, we ready. It ain't hard to find us. Hawk, I keep that stick locked, loaded, boy, he'll fade you line up. Young nigga name is Slayer. What you think, boy? You be done to try. Soft coast shit, we bout it. UPK, shoot solid. Little bitch think I'm crazy, think I'm playing like bitch, I ain't the one. Warfare every day, so who is you, bitch? I don't need your love. Killers right round the way. What you think? I love this brotherhood. Hood. More than you, bitch. You a lame nigga down to me. Eat candy, but I'm sucker free. You a little nigga, ain't nothing to me. Bass up, boy, I fit a beat. Yeah, AR-223. Draco with a magazine. Yeah, that clip run like limousine. I shoot your ass in the spleen. Boy, I bust your ass in a temple. We debating by the temple. Tell the truth, boy, you's a victim. And you're scoring off like a lizard. Nigga walk down my road. Why does nigga come down my road? Boy, come down my road. Boy, I charge your ass toll fee. I'm a real big priest, nigga. UPK play for keys, nigga. Commanding general get a damn order, but ain't nothing to me to damn kill you. I stuck in his ass like a cat. All weapons, boys full of tech. Boy, like a close combat. Nigga, I popped off for a neck. If that nigga won't walk, bitch, we ready. It ain't hard to find us. Hawk, I keep that stick locked, loaded, boy, he'll fade you line up. Young nigga name is Slayer. What you think, boy? You be done to try. Soft coast shit, we bout it. UPK, shoot solid. Little bitch think I'm crazy, think I'm playing like bitch, I ain't the one. Warfare every day, so who is you, bitch? I don't need your love. Killers right round the way. What you think? I love this brotherhood. Hood. More than you, bitch.
Christ said 7 we gonna be on one nigga in the end time. Nigga, fuck wrong with you, boy. Stressed by that damn hoe ass bitch. Fake ass nigga too. Dumb ass motherfucker. Fuck you.
Mic check, mic check, mic check. Mic check, mic check. Mic check, mic check, mic check. Alright, we twelve. Salakia. Hey, Shalom, Yahweh Shem Yahshua Barakatham, and all the brothers. Shalom, Yahweh Shemal Atham, Bashem Yahshua, all the sisters. We're the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, start out 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yohana. The Friday night Lashawan Qadash class, where we break down our culture and identity as Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans from a linguistics perspective. You know what I mean? We've been doing it since 1969, giving brothers and sisters the truth according to the Bible. You know what I mean? Which has been missing from the earth, I mean, for a very long time. So, you know what I mean? Like and subscribe to the class. You know what I mean? Like, subscribe, share, comment, you know what I mean? Whatever the case is. If you got any questions pertaining to Lashawan Qadash, on or off topic, whatever the case is, go ahead, ask them, put them in the chat. Raise your hand if you are present in class currently. And, you know what I mean? We'll get right into it. All right. Alright, so we're going to start off with, you know what I mean, how we usually start off every week with the Lashawan Qadash alphabet. And we're going to do a little recap from last week. Hey, yo, stuff. We're going to start off with the Lashawan Qadash alphabet like we do every week, and then we're going to get into a little recap so we can pick up from where we left off. Actually, select, let me go ahead and erase this real quick. Alright. So we got Abba, Gada, Hawaza, Kataya, Kala, Manasa, I, Pa, Taza, Kwa, Rasha, and Tha. Alright? If you're practicing at home, or if you got the Lashawan Qadash alphabet anywhere in your notes, she'll follow along. And make sure you practicing, you know what I mean, as much as you need to so that you can be able to say the Lashawan Qadash alphabet from A to Tha, you know what I mean, off the top of your head, right? It should be something at the least, you know what I mean, the Lashawan Qadash alphabet should be something that we should memorize from A to Tha, you know what I mean, off the top of our heads, right? If that's not something that you're familiar with, then, you know what I mean, let's get all on the same page and get to, you know what I mean, practice our culture, right? We tune in the scripture breakdown, we tune in, you know what I mean, we study the scriptures, we ask our questions, all of that, you know what I mean? It's good, you know what I'm saying, it's excellent to understand our culture from a scriptural standpoint, you know what I mean, understanding the King James Bible and understanding our culture as Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, right? That's an excellent practice to have, but, you know what I mean, a big part of gaining our culture back is understanding this language as well, all right? You know what I mean? So let's not, you know what I mean, let's not halfway do it, you know what I mean? Let's go ahead and dive all the way into our culture and, you know what I mean, let's get it on, all right? So we did the Lashawan Qadash alphabet. So last week we talked about Genesis chapter 1 verse 6. All right, it's like in 1 second. All right, so we was talking about Genesis chapter 1 verse 6. We was talking about specifically being able to recognize sight words. All right, so as you're reading through the Lashawan Qadash, as you're reading through the scriptures, as we do every Friday night Lashawan Qadash class, as we do every Sabbath service, you know what I mean, as you're reading through the scriptures, as you're reading on Bible Hub, as you're reading through the Tanakh, as you're reading through, you know what I mean, the Old Testament, as you're reading through all these resources that we have, or as you're reading through these documents, right? You should, you know what I mean, you should recognize certain words. Certain words will start to come up over and over. Certain phrases, certain structures should start coming up repetitively as you're reading through the Lashawan Qadash. And the whole point of, you know what I mean, the whole point of this class is for us to grow as a family, as a nation. All right. So as you're reading through the Lashawan Qadash, you should start to get familiar. You should start getting familiar with these patterns. You know what I mean? Certain phrases and certain sentence structures that should be familiar. You know what I mean? Certain words especially that should start to look familiar, so that when we're reading in the Lashawan Qadash class, or when we're reading in the Sabbath service, we don't have to stutter or stammer through certain phrases. We could just recognize it and just flow right through it. And that's the whole point, right? And that's what's going to help us get more familiar with our culture, familiar with our language, things like that. All right. So with that being said, we was just looking at sight words, you know what I mean, so that we can kind of compound on that concept. You know what I mean, getting familiar with things that are repetitive in our culture, in our language. All right. So we was doing that last week. We're gonna kind of piggyback off of that. All right. So you know what I mean. So and I gave a little homework as well. You know what I mean. The week before we start talking about this last portion of Genesis chapter 1 verse 6. You know what I mean. We had went over the first portion, the first half of Genesis chapter 1 verse 6, broke it down. In previous classes, we had started to get into sight words. All right, so the whole point was to get into the sight words, try to recognize them, try to get them under your belt, try to get familiar with them, and then to see if you could recognize them in the scriptures. And we broke down the first half of Genesis chapter 1 verse 6 to see if we could start seeing these sight words. And then the second half of Genesis chapter 1 verse 6, which is on the board now, I mean, was to start to recognize these sight words. All right, so you know what I mean, if you watching live or if you're in class, you know what I mean, let's go ahead and start talking about these sight words that we had went over these past couple classes. All right, we'll give you a second to do that. Let me check the chat. All right. All right. Give y'all a second to get in the chat. If you got any of them sight words that we talked about the last couple weeks, you go and put them in the chat. Because we're going to, as we go through Genesis, and that's what we're going to be doing pretty much throughout the, you know what I mean, the next couple weeks, we're going to be going through Genesis and trying to identify these sight words. So if you see them as we go through these scriptures, you know what I mean, or if you remember the list of sight words that we're going to start off with, if you remember a couple of them, you can go and put them in the chat or raise your hand if you're present in class. I'm going to give you a couple minutes to do that, all right? We're going to get right back into it. All right, I'm gonna give you a couple more minutes, a couple more seconds to go ahead and review your notes. But we should, you know what I'm saying, every Friday night Lashawan Qadash class, every class, any class that you tune into, you should not come empty-handed. You know what I mean? If you're watching online, you should not be empty-handed. You should have notes, you should have questions prepared, things like that. If you're watching or if you're present in class physically, you should not come empty-handed. All right? You should come with questions, notes, you know what I mean? Your learning utensils, your learning tools, all right? That's a pen, notebook, obviously your KJ or your King James Version Bible, right? Your Apocrypha. You should have a pen and paper, notebook, right? You should come prepared with questions, all right? All of those things. You should not be in class, whether you're online or present in class. You should not be in class empty-handed. All right. All right. So as you're looking through your notes, as you're looking through your homework, you know what I mean. Let's go ahead and make sure. Let's go ahead and check out that you know what I mean, that GoFundMe link as well. You know what I mean, we got the South Texas cookout coming up in the next couple weeks. Let's go ahead and you know what I mean, put our brick in, you know what I'm saying, donate to that GoFundMe. You know what I mean? Let's get it on. Alright? Let's check these chats. I'm gonna give y'all a couple more seconds. Alright? We just gonna revisit briefly before we go on, before we move forward. Let's go ahead and revisit what we went over last week. In the Lashawan Qadash, I mean, in Genesis chapter 1, verse 6. All right, and what we noticed last week, all right, just to give a little, you know what I mean, a little prelude to what we about to cover, what we about to review this week. All right, being able to identify these sight words is going to help us be able to decipher these phrases. All right. Now you notice on the board we got a couple, you know what I mean, as we've been going over the past couple weeks, right? You got these 4 steps that you take when you're going over the Lashawan Qadash, right? When you're breaking down these phrases, right? You'll see these phrases, like when you're reading the Lashawan Qadash, you'll see these phrases. You'll see a cluster of characters, and then you'll see a cluster of characters here, cluster of characters, so on and so forth. But, you know what I mean, if you know what I'm saying, if you're brand new to the Lashawan Qadash or you're not as familiar with it, right, this could be very discouraging. Or if you know what I'm saying, a young man, trooper, officer of 50, or you're just not familiar with the Lashawan Qadash in general, it could be very discouraging. So what you want to do is just tackle it like this. So you want to be able to just identify any of these 4 steps. They're not in any order, you know what I mean, not in any particular order. But what you want to do is be able to identify any of these steps, right, as you're going through the Lashawan Qadash. And it'll help you decipher these phrases or these clusters of characters. So it doesn't look so, it's not so, you know what I mean, it's not so confusing to us, all right? And once you get this under your belt, then it'll make the Lashawan Qadash so much easier for our people to be able to, you know what I mean, get more comfortable with, all right? And it's so easy because it's our language, it's our culture. So we get familiar with our language and our culture, right? Or we put in that effort to get familiar with it, right? Before we know it, it's gonna feel so familiar and so comfortable to us because it's the way we already speak, right? We don't speak like our oppressor. Like no matter whether you speak whatever language you speak under your oppressor, whether you speak English, whether you speak Spanish, whether you speak, you know what I mean, whatever language you speak, we don't speak even our oppressor's language. We don't speak our oppressor's language like our oppressor, right? And we speak, and that's the same way that the Lashawan Qadash is spoken. You know what I mean? They call our language, you know what I'm saying, some sort of, they call it ghetto, or they call it slang, or they call it what else they call it? They call it, they try to say we street. They try to say we ghetto. They try to say we country. You know what I mean? But all those negative things that they say about how we speak our oppressor's language, that's how the Lashawan Qadash is spoken. You know what I mean? So if we get familiar with these 4 steps, you know what I mean? You got your root word, and then around that root word, right, you might have a preposition in front of the root word. You know what I mean? You got your preposition in front of your root word, right, that you got here. You got a list of root words, or you got your list of prepositions right here. It never leaves the board, right? And then after your root word, you got your possessive, right? And it's right here as well. It never leaves the board, right? And it should be somewhere that you can access in your notes. All right. You got your root word. Should be 2 or 3 characters, right? And if you got any more than 2 or 3 characters, if you got any more than 3 characters, then you know that you have a tense attached to it, which is a pluralization tense. You got your past, present, and future tense. You got your doing tense. You got your feminization tense. You got your what's the word? Salakia. You got your servile tense, salakia. But if you got a root word and you just separated your preposition or possessive away from your root word, then the only thing left is a tense somewhere, all right? Or a stem, right? And we're gonna get into that in a later class, but that's how you want to break it down. And then understanding these 4 steps, then you're gonna be able to ask more in-depth questions or more intelligent questions. Like you break down like, okay, I know this is a preposition. Then you got the character at the end, which is a possessive. I know that this is a root word, or it stems from this root word. So how does certain characters change a root word, or change how a phrase is pronounced, or you know what I'm saying, things like that. All right, so that's the whole point. That's the whole point of it. Being able to look at phrases and characters and see, you know what I mean, being able to decipher certain root words and things like that, and then seeing certain changes and be able to ask questions. That's how you're going to be able to ask questions according to, you know what I mean, differences in phrases that you see. And we're going to get into it, right? So again, we went over last week, right? Oh, this is the end of Genesis chapter 1, verse 6, right? We was talking about sight words. We're not going to spend too much time on it because we kind of like, we went into it last week, so I don't want to beat a dead horse. But the whole point, you know what I mean, we kind of separated these sight words, right? So we got ma, ya, and ma, right? Mayum, right? This is a word that we should already recognize, meaning water, right? So every time you see ma, ya, and ma in the scriptures, you automatically know it's mayum, meaning waters, right? And in this scripture, or this portion of the scripture, is so convenient because it comes up so much in this portion that you should just be able to recognize it. And that's the whole point, right? You know what I mean? In certain, you know what I mean, in the scriptures, you'll have certain topics, certain contexts, or whatever the case is that we're talking about in that moment. So certain root words, because we're talking about a certain subject, it'll just be repetitive in the scriptures, right? So you got mayum here, ma, ya, and ma. Put it together, mayum. You got mayum here. So anytime you see ma, ya, and ma in the scriptures, you're going to see, or it's going to be the same word, mayum, right? So you got mayum here. You got ma, ya, and ma here again. So you can assume that this mayum here is the same as this mayum here, which is water, right? Same here, right? Right? Same here. Mayum. Right? So now what you can do from here is, you know what I mean, see the difference between, you know what I mean, how you can see the difference between these steps, right? When you add a preposition to a root word. The root word that we're dealing with right now is mayum, right? We got mayum here, which means water. Now you can see, all right, what happens when I add a preposition? Well, this is a perfect example right here. We got mayum, right, separated. So now you separate the root word, you get familiar with that word. Mayum, mayum, mayum. That's a ma, right? That's a ya, and that's a ma, right? Remember that ma at the end is gonna look a little different than a ma at the beginning, but both of these are a ma. So you got a ma, ya, and ma, right? Put it together, mayum. You see that anywhere in the scriptures, it's gonna be water, right? So get familiar with it. Mayum, 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 right? So you got mayum here, right? You got water. Mayum is the root word, right? But this has a character in front of the root word, right? As we went over last week, anytime you have a character in front of a root word, 9 times out of 10, you know what I mean, you can suspect that it's a preposition. So here's your root word, and here's a character in front of the root word. The character in front of the root word is a preposition, 9 times out of 10. So you got a ha right here. So you can assume that it's the ha that means the, right? And these prepositions never leave the board. That's gonna be your primary tool in deciphering this Lashawan Qadash. You wanna have your prepositions and your possessives in your notes so that you can refer to them real quick at any moment. All right. So you got a ha in front of your root word, which is mayum, right? And that's the beauty. You know what I'm saying? You recognize your root word. You can just add your preposition. So you got mayum. Mayum is mayum, or is water, no matter where you see it. So you just add the root word or your preposition. Now it's ha mayum, right? Ha is a preposition down here that means the. So now mayum, water, becomes ha mayum, or the water. All right? All right? So let's look at the other, right here. We got mayum standing alone, which is water, right? So there's not much that you got to do to that. You just got to recognize that when you see this, it's mayum, which is water, right? So you can just, you know what I mean? You can just breeze right through it. You just see it. You see it's 3 characters. You see it's a root word. You see it's the sight word, mayum, right? Now you got here the same root word, mayum, but now it has a different preposition on it, right? So up here we had ha mayum. Now we got down here mayum with a different preposition. So we got la mayum, right? So what all you're gonna do is just look at your prepositions, because your preposition is pre-positioned to the root word. Remember, we're reading from right to left, right? So your preposition is pre-positioned to the root word, or it comes before the root word. So la mayum, you know what I mean? You just check your prepositions, and you see la is a preposition right here that means to. So mayum, la mayum, right? So we got mayum, the root word here, and then we got la mayum. Mayum, la mayum means water to water, or the water from the waters, right? And what we just talked about last week was, in this scripture, I mean, the Most High is dividing the waters from the waters, or the heavens from the earth, right? The heavens, which have, you know what I mean, water-like properties, from the waters on the earth, right? with a firmament, right? So that was the whole point, you know what I mean? If you missed last class, last week, I recommend getting in last class. You know what I mean? Getting familiar or refreshing your memory on what we went over last week, because it's going to be very important for, you know what I mean, us getting into this Lashawan Qadash and remembering these sight words. Lock you. Right? And what you're gonna find, you know what I mean, when you commit certain of these these words to memory, right? You're gonna find that it's Lashawan Qadash gets easier and easier to, you know what I mean, master. It gets easier and easier to, you know what I mean, flow through. And it's really just a process that repeats itself. It just repeats itself over and over and over and over again. And that's why we got this 4-step process right here, right? You identify your prepositions, and that's another thing too. As we go through this Lashawan Qadash, you wanna, as we go through this Lashawan Qadash, you wanna commit your prepositions and possessives to memory as well, right? Because they're gonna be used constantly and repeat themselves over and over as we read these things on Friday night Lashawan Qadash class and then Saturday Sabbath service. So you want to commit these to memory as well. All right, so you recognize your prepositions, you recognize your possessives, and then you got your root words. That'll be somewhere in the middle. There'll be 2 to 3 characters. And then from there, you get familiar with root words. You get familiar with where your prepositions and where they're going to be placed in the scriptures or in a phrase. You get familiar with your possessives and where they're going to be placed in a phrase. Then you can start to pick out your tenses, because this is going to be something that you really want to look out for, right? Like your tenses, right? Your tenses is gonna be how you're gonna compound your knowledge. Like, it's cool to learn root words. It's cool to remember your prepositions and your possessives, but your tenses is gonna be your bread and butter. Like, once you decipher, like, okay, I know my prepositions, it'll start to become, you know what I mean? It'll start to become more familiar to you. Like, all right, I know this is a preposition, right? You'll start to recognize things like waya dabar, right? You'll start to recognize in that phrase, waya is 2 prepositions, and then dabar is the root word. Waya dabar, waya amar, waya, you know what I'm saying? You'll start to recognize. Or ha, like we just went over. Ha always means the as a preposition, right? You'll start to see la. You'll start to see la often in the scriptures. It'll mean 2, right? You'll start to recognize possessives, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Ya meaning me, ka meaning your, nawa meaning our, right? Things like that. Those are just the more commonly used and commonly recognized possessives that'll come after root word. So you start to recognize those things, and then you start to recognize certain root words like amar, dabar, right? You know what I'm saying? Things like that are constantly coming up in the Lashawan Qadash. And then once you start, you know what I'm saying, recognizing those things, then these will start to stand out to you. And this is where your questions are going to come from, right? So that you can compound your knowledge, right? It might feel like, you know what I'm saying, you might come to a certain point where you can become stagnant in the Lashawan Qadash, where it's like, okay, I know my prepositions, I know my possessives. I can use 2-letter lookup, I can use blue letter Bible, Bible Hub, things like that to identify my root words. but you start seeing these tenses, right? That's how you're going to compound your knowledge. Like, all right, I know this is a root word. How does this tense affect the root word, right? How does this character in the middle of a root word, how does that change the root word, all right? So this is where your questions are going to come from, all right? And that's what we're going to go into. And that's the whole purpose of the classes that we've been going into for the past couple weeks, all right? We just going to continue on, right? That's the whole point. So if you got any questions, right? If you remember anything from last week, if you recognize anything from last week, go ahead and participate so that we can all grow as a family. All right? So we got a new phrase up, right? Or we got a new stream of phrases, right? And what you want to do, right? Like another suggestion or another, you know what I mean, something that you want to get in the habit of is opening Bible Hub, you know what I mean, outside of Lashawan Qadash class, outside of Sabbath service. Open a Bible Hub and just read a random chapter, you know what I mean, in the Old Testament. Read, you know what I mean, a chapter that you're familiar with in the English, a verse that you're familiar with in English, and then read it in the Lashawan Qadash and get familiar with the characters, seeing the individual characters, get familiar with the prepositions, possessives, roots, and then once you're familiar with the prepositions, possessives, and once you're familiar with separating the preposition, the possessive, and the root word, or the root word, then you'll start to identify tenses. Like, all right, I've seen this root word, but I've never seen it with this character in the middle. I've never seen it with this, you know what I mean, with this suffix, right, at the end. I've never seen it with this preposition at the beginning. I've never seen it with this possessive at the end. You know what I mean? So that's how you're going to be able to ask questions, right? Just reading the Lashawan Qadash. And that's going to, you know what I mean, that's going to propel you forward in understanding this language. All right? So, all right, we're going to get it, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to give a little bit of homework. You know what I mean? You just want to practice at home. Right? You're going to practice at home. Let's go ahead and we just going to do exactly what I just said. So we in Genesis chapter 1, starting at verse 7, right? You want to take the Lashawan Qadash, right? So right now, you know what I'm saying, we haven't broken it down yet, but this is what you're going to see when you're reading Lashawan Qadash, right? When you're reading Lashawan Qadash at home, this is what you're going to see. It's going to have, where you're going to see these characters, right, all by themselves, and you might see a little Yiddish surrounding it, trying to, you know what I'm saying, and it might be a stumbling block to you. But what I want you to do is take that, the Lashawan Qadash in the Bible Hub, in the Blue Letter Bible, and follow this 4-step process and identify them sight words. Or if you got a root word, you know what I mean, like we've been talking about for the past couple months, you know what I mean, you come up into a new root word as you're reading the Lashawan Qadash, you come to a new root word and you just put it on a list, right? You just write down a new root word. If you haven't seen it or you're not familiar with a word, just put it on the list so that you can become familiar. And Genesis chapter 1 is an excellent place to start because it has a lot of basic words that you're going to want to become familiar with, right? So we went over, we got Yum, which is sea, right? Mayum, which you just went over, which was water. Shamayum, which was heaven, right? You got Itaza, which is tree. Iwap, which is bird. You got you know what I mean, all of those words. And then you got certain words that just recur throughout the scriptures, like Yahaya, which is be or am or to be or there will be. You know what I mean? And you want to get familiar with seeing those type of things, right? Get familiar with those. And once you get familiar with those, it won't be so taboo when you see them in the Lashawan Qadash. So we're going to break this down real quick, and then I'm going to leave you with some homework to do the exact same thing we're about to do right now. I want you to do that at home, all right? So this first portion, we're going to break it down real quick, right? Following these 4-step process, right? Breaking down the prepositions, possessives, isolating the root, and then seeing if we got any tenses there. All right, bear with me 1 second. We're gonna get to it. All right, so you got Wa Ya Aisha, right? First thing you want to look at is if there's any prepositions, right? Your prepositions and your possessives is going to be your bread and butter because that's how we communicate. Your prepositions is going to be talking about, you know what I mean? It's going to be the filler words that we use often. You know what I'm saying? I, in, on, do, make, the, and, he, it, as, like, to, for, of, or from, or which. Right? It's going to be those, or you, thou, thee, right? It's going to be those things that we see often that bring phrases together. So those are going to be seen anywhere. You know what I mean? Anytime you have a phrase, right? Anytime you see characters, anytime you see an ancient document that's written in the Lashawan Qadash, you'll see these words, right? So you want to get familiar with those. And then your possessives come at the end, right? Those are going to be your, exactly what it sounds like, possessives. It's going to be talking about basically who this phrase is pertaining to. So you want to get familiar with those as well. All right, but the one, those are the things that you can, if you're just, you know what I'm saying, getting familiar with it, you want to identify those off the rip, right? You identify those off the rip, then you can identify your root word. So you got wa as a preposition, meaning and, ya, right? Meaning he or it, right? That leaves a root word, meaning make, right? Or do, right? This is another one. This is a root word that we should already be familiar with. Allahayama, right? Put it together. Allahayim. Should already be familiar with it. We broke it down, you know what I mean, a couple times over past classes, right? I'll do it one more. I ain't want to, you know what I mean? I ain't want to repeat myself, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway, right? So Allah, meaning power. Ha being a servile tense, right? And then yum being plural. Right? So you got your power, more than one power because you got a plural tense, and then you got a servile tense here. So it's a subservient power or subservient powers. Talking about the angels, the Alahayim, right? Alright. Like it. Like it. There we go. All right. This is like it. Bear with me 1 second. Like it. All right, this is another one that you want to get familiar with as well, because you're gonna see it a lot, right? You're gonna see that a lot. All right. And this is kind of this is a phrase that kind of binds, you know what I mean, a sentence together, like for lack of better comparison, you know what I mean, your conjunctions in English, right? So this would mean with, or this would be with, near, together with, you know what I mean, things like that. By, right? At, among, you know what I mean, things like that, right? So you're gonna see that a lot, right? It just binds a phrase together. It kind of helps with the flow of the sentence. So you'll see that a lot in the midst of a phrase. Once you start to get familiar, especially during Sabbath service, right? You're reading the Lashawan Qadash characters, because right now we just breaking it down phrase by phrase. You know what I mean? This is a phrase by itself. We break it down, and then we see this. We break it down, and then we break it down phrase by phrase. But you're reading it during Lashawan Qadash, or you just reading a document. You know what I mean? You just going through a translation. Then you'll start to, you know what I'm saying, flow and start to see, you know what I mean, how these phrases come together and form sentences, right? So when you see that during Saturday Sabbath service, then you'll see this a lot. You know what I mean? Binding, you'll see that a lot. You know what I mean? Within a phrase. And you know what I mean, as you start to get more familiar with sentences, reading full chapters, reading full verses, you know what I mean, you'll start to recognize this and just be able to pronounce it just fluently and just understand that this is talking about you know what I mean, it's just binding a phrase together, right? You're near, with, among, by, right? Things like that. So we got right here, ha being a possessive. We got qua, looks like your ra, qua, ya, I, right? Ra, qua, ya, I. And if you were looking on Bible Hub, it'll help you out as well. You know what I mean? You'll be able to click on that concordance code so that you can separate your tenses. It's going to be very helpful to you, right? Right. So we talked about last week, right? So we got, well, let's start here, right? So your root word is going to have 2 to 3 characters. Now this has 4, so now since your root word has more than 2 to 3 characters, you can suspect right? You're not always going to be correct, but you can suspect that there's a tense involved, right? So last week we talked about this Yah, right? This Yah here. This is going to be a lot of times it's going to indicate that there's a causative stem, right? Which is the hafal stem. And we're going to get into that later. And I'm bringing it up because I want to introduce brothers and sisters to these stems, because that's going to be a big part of this fourth step, right? These first three steps are kind of like the bread and butter, right? 9 times out of 10, or usually in usual cases, you'll see a preposition or two before the root word. You'll see a possessive or two after the root word, and then you'll see the root word. But then these tenses, like I said before, are where you get your questions from, where you start to compound your knowledge. Because you see a root word, you start to get familiar with root words. You start to get familiar with seeing 3-character root words, and then you see something like this. And then it's like, okay, how does this Yah affect the root word? Right? And that's where your questions are going to come from, these tenses. Well, this is a causative stem, right? So when you see something being caused, right, then you'll probably see this Yah here. So the root word is kwa, or it's like your rock, kwai, right? Meaning a surface or a firmament, right? You got that Yah in the midst. That means something is being caused. So we looked in the previous verse, the Most High, through his messengers, is causing a separation between the heavens and the earth, or the waters from the waters, right? So this firmament is being caused, right? So that's why you got that causative stem, right? There's Yah in the midst, right? We're going to go into that in a little bit more depth, but I just want you to get more familiar with seeing those things. And then when you see, again, a root word with more than 2 or 3 characters in it, to suspect a tense, right? And then Wayah, the same Wayah here, right? This is another stem, right? This is your qual stem. You're going to see Wayah, 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 Wayah a lot throughout the scriptures. You're going to see that most often, right? Wayah is going to be your qual stem, right? Meaning and he, right? And he, and he, and he, and he, right? You'll see that a lot. Leaving your root word, badal, right? Badal meaning to, if I'm not mistaken, to separate. Let me double check. Or divide, right? Same thing, right? So it's going to be the same process, the same steps that we've been going over, the same process we've been going over, right? So what we can do now, right? What we can do now is start to open up the scriptures, right? Open up the Lashawan Qadash, open up the Bible Hub, open up Blue Letter Bible, read it in the Lashawan Qadash, right? Especially before Sabbath service, right? If you're in Sabbath service, right? You know where we left off at. You know what we picked up on the previous week. And you can just kind of get a head start. You can get a head start on where we left off at. Like, all right, I mean, we left off on Genesis chapter, I think this week in Sabbath service, we're in Genesis chapter 22. So you can pick up right where we left off. And whether you plan on being in, especially if you don't plan on being in Sabbath service, whether you know what I'm saying, you got the slavery or whatever the case is, you know what I mean, if you just not going to be present, it will, I will, you know what I'm saying, I will behoove you to, you know what I mean, at least check it out. You don't want to be out of the loop. Check out the chapters and verses that we're going to be going into during Sabbath service. Read it in the Lashawan Qadash, and go through these steps, and then you'll get more familiar. you'll start to see prepositions and possessives just pop out at you. It won't even, it'll be second nature. And that's what you want. You know what I mean? You want these prepositions like to say, waya, waya, waya. You know what I mean? Waya here means the same thing here. Waya, and he, right? And he make, and he divided, right? You'll start to see certain things like that. You'll start to see possessives at the end just pop out at you, right? You'll see that ha here just pop out at you. You know what I mean? That's what you want, right? And then once you get those things under your belt, then these tenses are where your questions are going to come from. All right, so if you ever wanted to know how to elevate yourself in the Lashawan Qadash, there you are right there. You know what I mean? Just follow these 4 steps, or these first 3 steps, get those real familiar. You know what I mean? Prepositions, possessives, root words. Get real familiar with your prepositions and possessives. Those prepositions and possessives are going to lead you to your root words. And then once you get those under your belt, then these tenses are going to be where your questions come from. All right? All right, let me see. Let me check before we get out of here. All right, let me see any questions. All right, so we're going to leave it there. So we know what our homework is, right? So this is Genesis chapter 1, verse 7, right? The beginning of verse 7. Now, for the homework, let's pick up from where we left off right here, right? And, you know what I'm saying, follow these steps like we did like we did tonight. Follow these steps. Try to identify your prepositions, your possessives, get familiar with some root words, and then, you know what I mean, if you follow these steps, you'll get to your tenses, and then, Lord willing, next week we could come with some questions. All right? With that, you know what I mean, we're going to go ahead give a courtesy salute to the brothers. The Israel Majah Shabbat, Yamajim, Barak, Yahweh Shem Yahshua Brakathum, Yaji Matah, Sor, and turn and face the sisters, give a courtesy salute to the sisters. The Israel Majah Shabbat, Imajim, Barak, Yahweh Shemar Latham Ba Shem Yahshua, Yaji Matah, dismiss.